Thank you very much and good morning to everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me okay. And apologies if the picture is a little bit strange. I'm having to hold my phone, so that was the only way I can join. So it's a real pleasure to be here. And I'm very happy that I gave in to the temptation to dial in earlier. So I actually heard the introductions, which were very sort of spiking the imagination and what I wanted to share with you today. And so part of what I will share is a reaction to the riddles and ideas that I heard. But indeed, I work for the Directorate for Economic and Financial Affairs of the European Commission. And this is the part of the Commission that coordinates the general investment strategy of the European Union. And one of the big new tasks that we have, actually, is a coordination of the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is part of the Recovery Plan for Europe, which was just launched a couple of months ago. Many of you may have followed. This is one main line of activity where it relates to reforms and investments in the member states. And we also have a coordinating role for Centro level investment facilities. These are all the financial tools and instruments that go through market channels. That is not for the member states to deploy as needed in their territories, but through financial intermediaries, sort of for the development of different segments of the market. And I am, you rightly said, responsible for financial instruments intervening in the social economy and other social impact areas. So in terms of the general trust and the big vision, I would like to say maybe as a first message that, hope is on the horizon. As a couple of people remarked, there is a need of shifting really the paradigm in a significant way. So some of this is already happening, of course, in the broader landscape. With the arrival of the new Commission late last year, we had the introduction of a new Green Deal for Europe as the new growth strategy for the Union. And we also had the exciting title of An Economy That Works for People, which is a whole portfolio for an executive vice president. So for the first time, you have introduction of the inclusive prosperity. So not talking just about growth, but prosperity that has to be more equitable and broadly shared. So it's just for you to get a sense, new social initiatives for equality, for inclusion, for anti-poverty, they go under the hat of the economy that works for people. So that's quite exciting. And then, of course, with the experiences from the coronavirus pandemic and the plans that were launched for the recovery, social and economic resilience will go hand in hand, and they're put at the center of all the new plans. So things are looking okay, even though it's right, as some of you remarked, that the hardest thing is not to come up with new things, but to unlearn what we know, some of the assumptions we hold about economy and how society is supposed to be organized, and to unpractice things that we have long done. But in terms of programming, I don't know how long time I have. You can probably interrupt me if I exceed the time. But in terms of programming, I guess I will not go into the broad overview of what new and what has changed, because we have many new programs that came on the programming landscape as a result of the new plans. So, for example, we have the Recovery Resilience Facility. As I said, this is 560 billion envelope that is separate to the multi-annual financial framework, and it's resources that member states will acquire through borrowing on the financial markets. Again, another novelty. of how we organize things, and that is topping up sort of the structural and investment funds together with a REACT-EU, another top-up facility of 55 billion. And then we have the InvestEU program, where I work most strongly, and that is the very novel integrated investment program of the European Union for the whole 7-year period. It will be financed now jointly under the Next Generation EU, which is the recovery plan, and the traditional MFF. So a lot of new changes that you can ask me maybe in the Q&A of what will happen to InvestEU. There have to be some adjustments, including likely in the sizing of the instruments, as well as the social investment window, which many of you may know. It is a landmark development of integrating all the financial tools through financial instruments, so repayable financial tools, for social economy, social entrepreneurship, microfinance, social infrastructure, social innovation into one single pocket in order to enable integrated financing. So that's novel and it's great. We would have to adjust probably the sizing, but I can't give you any figures yet. What stays is, I think, the most important, and that is the logic of the instrument as a whole and the social window. And that is the logic of leverage, partnerships, and impact. And when I say leverage and attracting private capital, we've gone beyond the traditional, just commercial capital, and we're reaching out to philanthropic capital. So we have an initiatives for foundations and philanthropic organizations to bring them into the galaxy of impact investment, to be able to set up new investment platforms, new instruments together with our implementing partners, which for InvestEU are the European Investment Bank Group, so EIB, the European Investment Fund, but also the Council of Europe Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and all national promotional banks and institutions. So not any kind of money. So a variety of capital combined. So in different ways, partnerships. This means not just combining funds in smart ways, of course, to give more adapted kind of capital for different interventions, but also partnering in terms of knowledge, networks, because a lot of the social investors that we hope to work with have, of course, proximity to the ground. Their tentacles are in the areas where EU funds find it harder to reach, some of the most disadvantaged communities, some of the most complex social issues, so that's great. And then the deep impact, of course, that is most embedded in the social investments window. So I said the positive, integrated financing. So a single intermediary will be able to fund different things. So social infrastructure development, social service provisioning, social economy in a single locality. That is great. It's great that we're making, dual effort to support not just the financial needs through our financial tools, but also to provide adequate advisory and capacity building to really build that infrastructure for entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship that you talked about. Now, I have to be honest, since this is an honest conversation, the weaknesses are still, for example, InvestEU program doesn't have any specific geographical focuses. It's demand-based, market-driven, which still means that the places that are better developed, actually, that are better able to put together projects and apply, can bring the funding to the ground. That may not be the areas of greatest needs. And that we still, I would say it honestly, in many of the products, we're still following a venture capital logic that was mentioned before. I remember I've been in the Commission for 5 years, and so participated in the development of the first financial instruments for supporting social economy and creating social impact. And I remember we were very much just replicating the general venture capital instruments that we had, adapting them to the social sector. Well, it doesn't really work. that way. So we're trying to get deeper into things and take away some of the assumptions. And the last thing I'm going to say very briefly is that apart from this, we're starting a number of pilot activities, implementing them directly to the ground in remote communities. And this is something I'm very proud of. We're doing it parallel to InvestEU and sort of with the potential to create blueprints and then replicate and upscale this into the programs, InvestEU and also national programs. But those are pilots. For example, there's a HERO pilot, which is for housing and empowerment of Roma, so one of the most disadvantaged minorities in several Central and Eastern European member states. It's about access to housing and employment, and it includes the replication of social innovation. I can tell you more in the question and answers, but it's really, really exciting. And it brings us to a new understanding of social innovation, new ways to support it, that I think is really, really good. I mean, it has connection to also this community-led local development, which is super important. And it also is about partnerships and innovation on the ground. New ways of doing things that empower everyone, that it's embedded in some of the tools, for example, the European Social Fund, but it's not really happening because it depends on actually having good governance practices or ability on the ground, which is not the case in most of the, Eastern countries. It works sometime in the West, but not really. So we've had that as a tool. It hasn't worked. So through this pilot, we hope to, these types of pilots, we hope to ignite a little bit and catalyze these processes. I stop here. I saw you appeared. I had a few more messages, but I can reserve it for the next round.